Kamau Bell, man, I don't know. Like, the laundry list is long. The resume is long. I'm going to say satirist, because I don't say satirist a lot. Satirist.
Okay.
Speaker, author, media personality, passionate about local community, documentarian. Welcome back to Living Corporate, man. How you doing?
All right. I got a long list of jobs because I got a long list of children. So that's how it works.
Man, look, the last time we were here, we were talking about your book, Do the Work. And for those, that was some years ago. And it's funny how time flies, but like, for those who don't know, Do the Work was like this, it is a workbook of sorts to really empower and help to support the enablement of DEI practitioners. And I remember even that conversation, you were like, look, Zach, for Black folks and, brown folks, like some of this stuff is going to seem really simple, but like, this is really targeted a lot towards like white DEI practitioners. It contextualized a lot of language and just gave a lot of historical context to things. Super fire book. Since then though, right? Like it's just wild, maybe not wild. Maybe it's kind of predictable. I'm not sure. Since then we've seen what a lot of people are calling pushback, backlash, DEI being under attack. We've had folks on that have been subject to lawsuits from Stephen Miller. Like we've seen a lot of things push back against any initiative that doesn't support or promote folks that are not straight, white, male, Christian. And so like I'm curious, what in this moment in your mind does the work look like right now?
I mean, it's funny because when me and my co-author, Kate Schatz, were writing the book, the publisher was like, man, I wish the book could come out right now. And we were like, it's okay. Racism's not going away anytime soon. So we are certainly in a moment where I would say the thing that is sort of very indicative to me of what the moment is, my 80-year-old dad is like, this is bad. My 80-year-old dad from Alabama is like, this is bad. So he's seen some bad. He's born and raised and still lives in Alabama. But he's also spent a lot of time working in corporate America. And he's seeing like a lot of programs that he was like, literally was one of the people who started these programs or advocated for these DIY programs, DEI. You got to do it yourself. DEI programs. Like he was one of the first people to say, I think we need to create programs to promote diversity before there was an acronym for it, before there was a thing for it. It was just called diversity.
Yeah. He's
seeing in his state and in corporate America, these programs be canceled or divested from. And so this is the moment where really the rubber meets the road, the rubber meets the road of like, are we who we say we are? So for me, I'm in show business. I'm trying to be, a superstar. I want to be the next Kevin Hart, like all those things. Or the next Jerry Seinfeld, but also I got to make sure that I'm still doing my part to make it easier on the people coming behind me. You know what I mean? And so a lot of the work that you said, I'm glad to hear you say cares about local issues is like work in my local community of like, I can't fix the federal government. That's not my job. Yeah. But I think I can help Oakland. So I think that's a lot of it is like, really, we have a section in the book called Know Your Lane. And it's about like, and this can help anybody, no matter what your race is. What are the areas in your life where you can make an impact? So you don't always think when you're watching the news, oh my God, it's so bad over there. Or when you're watching a tragedy go down in your city, that tragedy is bad. What are the things you can do in your house, in your block, in your neighborhood, with your local politicians? And so that's what I'm doing right now is working with the local politicians here to make Oakland a more accessible place for everybody to film, but specifically Black and brown folks.
I remember we had talked about this like the first time we had you on in relation to staying in your lane. And you talked about the fact, you said, look, there are things that I can practically do. You talked about empowering and helping and hiring Black folks, keeping like reaching out, like just in your immediate vicinity. I mean, look, an example of this is coming on Living Corporate, like Black independent media on a platform that is not owned by or not under the umbrella of an NBC or Paramount or whatever the case is.
Wait, what? I thought this was under okay, I gotta go. I thought Jeff Bezos owned this. I'm sorry. You have gotten me here under suspicious circumstances. No.
False pretenses. No. So, but it's real talk though. And it's like, I salute that. Like there are, and I think that it's easy to kind of like push against things and like these really large theoretical content themes or senses. But it's like, hey, like there are things that all of us can do, especially those of us who might be a little bit more privileged, right? Like it's easy for, I think, the common man to look at Kamau Bell and be like, oh man, he's like super, super way up there. And I'm not saying you're not, but it's like, yo, like we're all like from a class perspective, we're all like a couple degrees separated from each other. We can all help in our relative ways. I mean, again, Roy Wood Jr. is another great example of that. Now, you know, we haven't connected in a while. Like I said, it's been some years. I'd love to get your perspective on the Biden administration and how you were feeling about Biden running, and then like your reaction to the news. He's like, hey, I'm not running again. Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to take credit for it, but I do feel like I get like 0.00001% credit for getting him to drop out. I'm not George Clooney. I didn't write an op-ed in the New York Times, but I was certainly talking about the fact that like, hey, this doesn't look like it's going as well as he thought it was. You know, after that debate, it was like, hey, everybody. And, you know, it's funny how in this country, we don't have any problem telling people they're too young to do something, but we have a lot of problem telling people they're too old to do something.
Yeah.
And, you know, I live in California where we had a senator named Dianne Feinstein who, it was an open secret that she was not all the way there towards the last several years of her life. And, you know, we don't have a mechanism for like, it's funny because you talk about corporate. We don't have a mechanism in politics for saying it's time to go. But in corporate America, you turn 65,
you out of there.
You got to go. CEO, I'm still vital, and you got to go because capitalism says you got to go. The actuarial table says it's time to go.
Right. No, your blood is not greasing these cogs fast enough anymore. I'm sorry. and so like you're absolutely right, because I'm thinking about, you know, I worked for a huge global consulting firm for some years, man, and it was just the mandatory retirement age. Yeah. And so, you know, you talk to these older partners and it was like, it wasn't a debate. It was like, yeah, I know I'm being put out to pasture in 17 months. Right.
Yep.
But you're absolutely right, man. Like it does in public service. So let's be clear, in public service, because public service ain't service in the public like it was supposed to. I was going to say the irony is that there's money coming in and out of that sector as well. But yeah, but to your point, man, you know, and maybe because I was raised in the church, like I've been around older people my whole life. Like I'm used to seeing, oh, your shutter speed is
exactly that you just sort of sneak the car keys away. I can't find my car keys, man. I wonder what happened to them. Anyway, just go sit down in that easy chair.
Yeah, it's okay.
We'll put your stories on.
It's like you're not. It's not rotating. It's not spinning in the same. Not turning over.
No, you're not. You're just idling. You're just idling. You're not actually You're not moving anywhere.
And so, you know, and to that point, man. I mean, I was talking to my mom about it. It's like I think it's wild that we don't have a. So it's like, look, because ageism works both ways, right? I don't believe there are things that you can be too young for, things you be too old for. That doesn't mean that we're looking at you less than. I'm not saying that someone of Biden's age does not have value in like this larger system.
That's a different question. Yes, we all have value. My mom is 87 years old. She has a lot of value. And to be quite honest, she's way more on the ball than Biden at 87.
Yeah.
And I'll say this, she can be president for about 45 minutes a day, because that's about all she's got patience for. And if she gets hungry, maybe it's a half hour. Like she's just not capable of paying that level of attention. And she shouldn't have to. And luckily her son is successful enough that I don't have NBA draft money, but I do have 1-bedroom apartment in Oakland money. So, you know,
and Oakland is not cheap. So, but
no, it's not cheap. It's not cheap.
And so, here to that point, man, I think there's also just like this huge chasm between 21 and like 80 something. Like we could do something. So, okay. So we agree. I'm of the same mind, and I'm gonna share something on this pod is I peeped something early when he was when he was running in 2020.
Yeah.
He was talking and people weren't talking about it, but I peeped it. He was talking and he had to adjust.
Oh,
And I was like, and I said, man, like, now that's not necessarily a telltale sign, but I was like, hey man, like,
Yeah.
What's going on? Now,
Yeah.
how did you feel though? All that aside, like how did you feel when you saw the news? Hey, I'm coming. Like immediate reaction to Kamala coming out and saying I'm running for president. Like, what was your immediate reaction there?
Well, it's funny because I tweeted about this because I don't say X. You can't make me say X.
Nah.
But I was on a flight heading to DC for nothing to do with anything to do with any of this. Just to be clear,
Yeah.
I was heading there for work, and as the flight attendant's like, "Please turn off your phones," it goes, "Biden dropped out," and I was like, I would love to turn off my phone, but I'm very important and I need to keep up on this news story. And you may not recognize me, but people are going to want me to chime in on this. So he dropped out, and then by the time we like climbed up, it was about 20 minutes between the time he dropped out. So when he dropped out, first of all, I was just like, yay! And not even anti-Biden, just like for the first time in my memory, Democrats were actually trying something.
Yes.
Like they were not just going to be, Democrats are always like, I always say Democrats are like Democrats rent the car, get all the insurance, and then drive it in the slow lane the whole time they rent the car.
Yeah.
Republicans don't get the insurance and they drive it like they stole it. You know what I mean? So
they take it to a roller derby.
Exactly. And leave it there and don't fill up the gas. And so I just felt like at least I don't know how this is going to work out. And at that point, for like 20 minutes, we didn't know what was going to happen. Mm-hmm. I was just happy that something was being tried. And then when he sort of like 20 minutes later was like, also, it's Kamala. It just felt like it happened so much smoother than I think any of us were prepared for. Because I know apparently even like Nancy Pelosi and Obama wanted like a brokered convention where you go to and that would have been fun, Thunderdome, Democratic Thunderdome. But it's also probably not the smart play politically. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So by the time it was Kamala, there's this whole funny thing that happens because I live in Oakland, and we've now discovered that Kamala is a daughter of Oakland, even though she spent most of her time out here in Berkeley. I don't know if you've noticed this, but we've talked about it a lot in the Bay Area. The New York Times did a story where they said Berkeley, because she lived in Berkeley as a kid. Like she did not live. She was like out here. You're born where the hospital is, but that doesn't mean that's where you grow up. So right. And Berkeley and Oakland are they're right on top of each other. So she was born in Oakland at the Oakland Hospital, but she grew up, spent all of her time growing up in Berkeley, that she was out here. And she lived in Oakland at different points, but she's definitely a Berkeley kid. And the New York Times found out that Berkeley residents understood that Kamala was going to have to not claim she was from Berkeley, because basically Kamala had done the math of like, which sounds worse, black from Oakland or communist Marxist from Berkeley. Then we're going to go with communist Marxist from Berkeley sounds worse. So I'm going to go with I'm black from Oakland. Which is crazy math that black works out better for once.
Yeah, it's crazy.
In the optics.
No, it's 100%. And I mean, I didn't know. And like, look, I didn't even know, because I don't know how much studying and like research I've done of Kamala Harris for real. Mm-hmm. I didn't know like her backstory and her dad and like his professorship and like the work that he had done. And like, I'm like, oh, he's a real one. Like he's not with none of this at all.
He's such a real one. He's not even doing interviews. He's
right. He's like, I'm not even available. Like, like that last run that after he made that last statement, he's like, I'm not participating in this no more. And he has not.
Nope. Didn't show. Maybe he was at the convention like the Phantom of the Opera, but he certainly was not there in the selfies and in the photos. He was not trying,
there. Neither
him nor Beyonce showed up, as far as I can tell.
Bro, that Beyonce non-look was crazy. We're going to talk about the DNC in a minute, though. Now look, I want to also get your perspective. Like, did you experience the high, like you're kind of alluding to it in terms of like where Kamala claims she was from. Did you engage in the high of first black woman, presidential nominee, black girl magic? Did you get caught up in that excitement at all? Did you allow for yourself for that at all?
I mean, here's the thing. Yes, on some level, I think people think you have to be one or the other. But I think we're all capable of being like, that's great, but it's not perfect. There's so much more work to do because she's not exactly politically aligned with me the way I would like her to be. But I have 3 mixed race black daughters who this is going to mean something to, because optics and identity politics do matter. Also, we need to figure out this whole Palestine situation, and I don't know which side she's on. Hey! So, it's just, so yes. But not in a way that distracts me from like all the other issues. But with my daughters sitting there watching the DNC, and my 9-year-old, my 13-year-old actually watched a lot of it. My 9-year-old watched a lot of it. my 13-year-old watched the Kamala part. And to see their reaction to seeing this person who's from where they live, Oakland and Berkeley, and who they'd heard of before, and they know because her name goes well, is big out here, and to see her potentially being the next president, that's a big deal when when they lived during the Trump era, And we know as kids, representation means a lot. Now, as adults, representation doesn't always mean as much because your skin folk are not always your kinfolk.
Yeah.
But I can be of two minds about yes, I get why this is exciting. Yes, I get why that Zoom call with all those black women happened and why that means something. My big hope is that I hope Kamala realizes more than even Obama, you're being propelled. You're not launching yourself. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I don't mean that but I think about it in superhero analogies. Obama's like Batman, where every day he trained to be president from the time he was a president flew through his window and he's like, I got to be a president. And whereas Kamala was bit by a radioactive good politician. You know what I mean? It's she's been injected with some sort of power that she's had that she didn't have before. She didn't have it until Joe Biden endorsed her. It's she got that was the super soldier serum. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so her speech at the Dem convention was her best speech she's ever given by far. And there's not a number two, I don't think. You know what I mean? It's that was the bar that she set for her new self. Whereas Obama knocks those off like it's no big deal. He can go up there with what's the topic? Never mind, I'll figure it out. You know what I mean? No notes. And so I think that Kamala is being propelled by all this energy. And what I hope and pray is that if she gets there, because it's still that she remembers these people put you there, you have to represent for them. Now, whether or not you have to understand who put you there and why.
Yeah.
And not necessarily that you did it yourself. You know what I mean? Nobody does it themselves, but you know what I'm saying.
I know what you mean. And you know what? And to your point about being positioned, right? So imperfect example, I think about when my man got the glow at the end.
Yes.
Glow. He had that.
Yes.
When I realized that at that DNC, my moment of she got the glow was when she was up
if
there.
If they had played that song at the end, me and you would have been excited.
Crazy. I would have went crazy.
Yeah.
I realized she had that glow was when she got up there and said, we're going to have the most lethal military in the world. And people went crazy. You would have thought she said, I don't know, something.
Everybody gets a free turkey this Thanksgiving. Yeah.
And I was like, they're gonna put they're putting to your point. They are pushing you the collective this coalition of various peoples. They want you in this seat, right?
Yes. Yeah,
and so to that end, before I get to the next thing, I'm curious, what do you think about all these? So my position on all these discussions about her race and identity are pretty much distractions, right? Is she black? Is she not? There's videos of her talking about how she cooks greens.
Yeah.
I'm kind of and maybe because look, I'm privileged in having a really diverse set of friends across the diaspora. My philosophy is that hey, look, man, you're black, whether you're born in this country or you're from the islands or some country in Africa, you are part of this larger community. Yes, there's cultural nuances there, but you're black. Do you think there's more to this conversation than just petty distraction?
Look, I'm always good for a good esoteric how many angels can dance on the head of a pin conversation if we want to have it. And we certainly in the diaspora we can have that conversation. Yeah. But I can even accept the fact that she's not African American, she's black. Or she's not half African American, half South Asian. She's half Jamaican American, half South Asian. So I will accept we can break it down into all those different things. But none of that distracts from the idea of if that stops you from voting, if that's the issue that stops you from voting for her, because I keep saying this, there's lots of reasons to be critical of her record and what but if that's the one, I think you're messed up. I'm not saying you can't have the conversation, but I just think, and also as a parent who has three daughters who I'm every day I'm waking them up to young, gifted, and black. I don't have any space for this country has said if you got a touch of the tar brush, then you're black. So that's what the rule is, right?
That's right. The one drop.
I'm not raising white girls. I'm raising black girls who are mixed race and that mixed is white. They're not white girls. You know what I mean? So I don't have any. I will engage in the discussion with you, but I also have low tolerance for like the attacks because it's just like I'm not going to take that for you're not going to do that to my kids. So I don't have,
right.
so it's like, we're just going to, but again, if you want to criticize her record, I can find you plenty of people in the 510 area code who are probably not going to vote for her despite the fact she's a daughter of Oakland because they don't like her record and not the pretend record that people talk about, but her actual record. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
I don't have, again, I don't have any, look at this. I'm a black man married to a white woman. I get that there's some circles of blackness I can't walk into because of that. Like I get that there's like, hey, what's up, my 5%ers? Like I get that
you're not going to be on a panel. You're not going to be like hosting an event with Dr. Umar anytime soon.
No. And that's okay. That's fine. Whatever. So I understand that, but you're not going to tell me that I'm less black because I married a white. Like I don't have time for that discussion.
Right.
So you can say I'm not allowed in over there. Great. Have at it. Good for you. And I get that why I totally understand why you wouldn't want me in that. Fine. But I'm not going to take criticism unless you're also going to like help buy groceries and pick my kids up after school. Like I don't have space for you to criticize my life unless you also want to like support my finances.
Amen. Amen. And it's, what I think is interesting, like there's more nuanced discussions to have, right? Like to your point about record or even like identity and culture, right? It's like, as I've talked to folks and I've said, it's interesting because people say she's black, she graduated from Howard and pledged AK undergrad. And it's like, and I'm like, well, first of all, I think again, everything we already said is like, I'm not questioning nobody's blackness like that. What I think it is an interesting conversation is like, hey, like if anything, I think Kamala represents like the black elite in like a really unique way. Like, to me, that's a much more interesting discussion. She grew up in Berkeley. She has a parent who was and is a tenured professor at a notable, one of the most leading institutions in the world. She graduated from Black Harvard, like from like Black Ivy League, and also pledged in a sorority. Like that is to me a much more like, again, interesting, perhaps for some folks uncomfortable conversation, but at least it's like grounded in something, I don't know, reasonable.
Yeah. I mean, I think you could have a discussion that, because if she becomes president, there's a discussion to be had about why is it that America's first two black presidents are the kids of black immigrants. You know what I mean? Or black, you know what I mean? Or black, like, why is that? Like, that's a great, because I think there is something to be said about that. Like, that's interesting that, like, that when we decide that it's time for a black person, it's not a black person, and I'm not necessarily a part of this crew, but can trace their legacy to slavery. You know what I mean? To enslavement. So I think that there's certainly a PhD thesis in that if she's elected president. But again, it doesn't, ask Amadou Diallo about what the police thought about, well, you're an immigrant, you're an immigrant, so you're not an African-American, so we're not going to brutalize you. You know what I mean? So, again, I will have all the reparations discussions about who gets what when they start passing out reparations and why it's more important. I'll have all those discussions. But again, if it's about dividing us instead of like about equity and fairness, I don't have time for it.
I love it. Now, we're talking about it a little bit already, but coming down from like the high of the decision and Beyonce not showing up, no shade to Beyonce.
I was like, is she going to pop out a balloon? The balloons came, and I was like, is she in a balloon? Like,
but had she shown up, oh man, I think the world would have cracked in half. So coming off the high, like I think we're still like a lot of folks. I feel I count myself one of those people. In a place again where so many people are turning up their noses to vote Democrat, like, okay, I'm gonna do it, but like I don't really want to. We're in an interesting season because you talked already a little bit about Israel Palestine. Look, I'm 35, right? So I know there's been a ton of life and world that's happened before I got here. I hate it when like people in my generation act like the thing that's happening is the first thing it's ever happened. I know that's not true. At the same time, I think technology has given us like open view, like up close and personal in ways that I never imagined seeing, like just brutality, and just up close and personal, front row seats to a genocide. And we're also seeing a candidate so far being unwilling to adjust course than the one that we're on. And so like, what would you say, part of me would say to young people, but I mean, it's true. Like, there's a lot of Gen Zers who are going to be voting for the first time in this election. Everyone's election is the first election for somebody. But like, what would you say to folks across the block who are trying to navigate this moment as to what to do?
Well, so first of all, I would say know what the system is. So if it was just based on popular vote, I'm pretty sure I would go to Vegas and bet today that Kamala's going to win the popular vote. Like, but that's not what the system is. So then it becomes about where do you live? Like, what state do you live in? So I live in California. I'm not saying I'm voting for Mickey Mouse, but I can vote for Mickey Mouse, and it's not going to change whether or not Kamala Harris is the president. And that's not my way of saying it. So I think your vote means something different depending upon where you are in the country. So, like, for example, the uncommitted movement, a lot of those people are in Michigan, and they're like, hey, you could lose this state by thousands of votes, not hundreds of thousands, by thousands of votes. You should probably come talk to us because we have a huge Arab and Muslim voting bloc here that, I saw that almost 1 million people voted for some version of uncommitted in the primaries.
Yes.
So
yes.
And that's a lot. It's a big number, but it's when you scatter it across the states, Hillary lost Wisconsin by 11,000 votes. So it's like, you're talking about like, so what I would say to young people is, one, figure out where are you voting? And cause that will also affect what you need to do, take that information. And two, I almost sort of go like this. Look, I'm not going to argue about the presidency. It's super important that you vote local because your local issues are about your community. So I would say if you're sort of reluctant, start to figure out what the local issues are in your community and figure out where you want to vote on those. And while you're in there, pick a president or don't. I just sort of feel like I'm going to leave that up to you. But I do say, because I was a person who younger was like, it doesn't matter who you vote for because it sounds cool to say. And also you're young and you don't know. But it sounds like you're a rebel. I'm not voting, But and so I understand that thinking. I'm not condescending to it. But I'm encouraging everybody, hey, figure out what your local elections are because that's your school board, that's local taxes, that's the city council people or whoever, the alderman if you're in Chicago. Those are the people. Find out who runs your neighborhood. Find out all these things. It could be anything that you go, wait a minute, or about the money that's that's allocated to city services. Like that's what you want to figure out. And while you're in there, pick a president. Like since you're already there, that's what I would do. I encourage people to vote. I just want you to register to vote, make a voting plan, and go vote. Once you do what you get in there, is between you and Jesus.
Love it, man. Look, now I gotta talk about some of these jokes, okay? Because you're funny. You're a funny nigga, dog. I'll be laughing at you.
Well, it's funny because I'm starting to do stand up again. But when I don't do stand up, it's just like all I can do is tweet. So
bro, I be laughing. I was like, dog, and you know what's as a quick aside, real quick, like there are certain stand up comedians that I've been like, man, I don't really think they're that funny, right? I don't think they're funny. Yeah. But then I've gone to their shows and I'm busting out laughing. And what I realize is a very simple unlock for me was in that moment, oh, these people are funny for a living. So like, yeah. Like, hey, I might find this clip funny, but there's a high percentage chance that if I sit in front of this person for 10 minutes, they probably gonna make me laugh for about 6 or 7 of them. You know what I mean? It's how you take care of your family. So back on these jokes, right? Like you've been making and poking good fun at JD Vance, and I want to give you some space to just do that because we're gonna clip this up. We're clipping up this whole thing. What is up with this dude, man? Like, why is he's so strange? What would you attribute that to?
I mean, so I think, first of all, I think I take it personally because he did live out in the Bay Area for a while. And that's when he had that book come out, Hillbilly Elegy, that and it happens every now and again. A white person writes a book where white people are like, oh, finally someone is focused on us. Finally, somebody has spent time to explain what our struggles, you know what I mean? And it's also the elite white people going, I knew poor white people I needed to learn more about the poor whites. I'm not going to do anything about it, but I'm glad I read the book. It's like black like me, poor like me. And then to really know the story that he's been bankrolled by Peter Thiel, who's like a billionaire investor, one of those guys who's like trying to figure out how to live forever. Literally, I'm not making this up. He's one of those billionaires who's like, I don't think I ever want to die. So they're like swapping out blood with baby blood and sleeping in hyperbaric chambers, like on some life extension, I was all excited to move to New Zealand just during the pandemic. I found out Peter Thiel was there. I was like, I can't do that. I don't want to move closer to a vampire. And just one of those dudes who's like made money off making money, was like an early investor in Facebook, and just like if you looked why he's rich, you'd be like, I still don't understand. But that guy bankrolled like JD Vance from very early on, like put him in all the positions. Like basically, like you ever seen the movie The Manchurian Candidate? Or
I have. Yes.
This is the first time I think we've ever seen a candidate being Manchurian right before our very eyes. Normally they do the Manchurian stuff behind closed doors because they don't want you to see it.
It's
but this is the first time. Yeah, he's not even on Wi-Fi or on he's not on Bluetooth. The plug is coming out of his back and into the wall. Like they're not even being secretive about it. Like and that's why sometimes you can see his batteries run low. Like when he tried to order a donut and he just flamed out. Like he was, so for me, he just to me is a waste of white skin. That's all I'm trying to say.
Oh my
like
God.
You got that's all I'm trying to say. He's just a waste of white. You got all that white skin you could do so much with, and you're not doing nothing with it.
No, I will say this though, like to that point, he do have all the pieces, but they don't come together right.
It's like when you're building a Lego set and you got some Duplos in there. That's what he is. He is Legos plus Duplos equal a mess.
To your point, when he tried to order those donuts, I was like, hey man, like, do you not talk to human beings?
When you can't do donuts, you know what I mean? You can't do donuts. And here's the thing that is amazing. First of all, the thing I loved about that clip, which made me want to write about it, it was like, because as somebody who works in documentaries and reality television, I'm like, oh, your team hates you. Oh, that's what the problem is here. Your entire team hates you.
And actually, real talk, break that part down, because you talked about that, and I do think it's important, because I read it and laughed at first, but now I put it, it's like, wait, no, United Shades of America, no, he knows what. So like, what was your your signal for that?
The first thing was when I watched it, I was like, ha 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 ha. Oh, wait a minute, and I started to feel bad for JD Vance. Like, oh, you don't know your team hates you. Because here's how it works. Because it looks very simple. JD Vance walks into a donut shop, chats the people up, and orders some donuts. It seems like a thing where you'd be like, just go do it. Mm-hmm. But that only works if you have the skills to do that. And JD Vance doesn't have the skills to do that. And his whole team knows it. That ain't the first time they've seen him try to talk to humans before. So they know it. So what you're supposed to do, because think about all these people you see on TV as hosts. There's teams of people around them to make it all work. You see Bourdain on TV, there's 15 people on the other side of the camera just making sure Bourdain was in the best position to succeed. Same with me. And every host is good at some things and not good at others. So they should be like, okay, we got this donut thing. Now we all know, if this is a good team, if they're a good team, we all know he sucks at talking to humans, and he's real awkward around donuts for some reason. We don't know why. Maybe he was touched by a donut when he was a kid. So we need to put him in the position to succeed. And what you do is before JD Vance gets there, the team goes in and goes, who here wants to talk to vice presidential candidate JD Vance? And if they go, none of us, then you go, I think we're going to have to find another donut shop. That's what you're supposed to do. You don't just walk into a random donut shop. You go, who in here is excited to talk to JD Vance? None of us. And then a black woman goes, and I don't even want to be on camera. Okay, we got to find we got to find a Chick-fil-A or a Dunkin', because this ain't working out. So that was clearly what it was.
When he said, I'm running for vice president, and that black girl said, okay. I said,
and that's
I threw my phone across. I said, yo,
yeah.
Why would you? My thing was, I was like, all right. So to your point, not setting them up for success is one thing, but then why did y'all record? Y'all recorded that, looked at it, and said, we're gonna press send on that.
No, that's when as soon as she says okay, and you see his eyes like he feels like, oh no, he's starting to do that panic. It's like a little kid who suddenly like gets anxiety. He suddenly becomes the little kid who becomes a kid, and that's when one of your people goes, cut, stop, turn that off, delete that. We're going somewhere else. That footage never sees the light of day. And then it's funny because even my 9-year-old, I showed it to her, and then that donut order was really like, oh, you just landed on this planet and you Wikipedia donuts. And because you couldn't even pull off like, because he goes, give me a lot of glazed, and he just sort of does this weird arm, a lot of glazed, and then some sprinkle stuff. What are you?
I was like, and then he said, then he said, "Oh, what are the things that y'all don't even like? Like, let's put that in a bag for the people." I was like, "What?
What are you doing?" And then he says some cinnamon rolls, which first of all, that's not donuts anymore, man. That's a different. Those cost more. You can't get a dozen cinnamon rolls for the price of a dozen donuts. And then he just closed it on. This is my 9-year-old's favorite part. Whatever makes sense. Like you could see him just like
shut down.
Yeah, he just like you could see that he just powered down. Like he had pulled his own plug out of the wall and he didn't have it. He didn't have it. Whatever makes sense. And it's just like but here's the funny part. So it's like I said, you need to fire your whole team. You need to start over because none of that. And and your team should be like, okay, JD, we're going to go order donuts. Here's things you say when you order donuts. I'd like a dozen. Give me your best sellers. What are your favorites? And I put it like, just scrape off all the sprinkles and throw them in a box, things like, and I was like, if you believe that one, JD, then you really have a big problem. But then you see him talking about why women who don't have kids are not good people. And that dude is freestyling and flowing. He's
in the zone.
He's in the zone.
He's Jordan 96 when he's talking about women being less valuable.
There is no stutter. There is no ums. When that dude gets in his women childless Catwoman bag, he is Steph Curry.
Steph Curry.
In the Olympics, in the last 2 minutes of the Olympics.
From half court, he is cooking you.
He's doing that thing where he shoots and just runs up.
Turn around. Look. I ain't got to look. I'm like, yo, like, man, you're like a bad person and a dumb person at the same time.
But he's a rich person. So
he's a rich person. Yeah. So look, we got you for a good time, not a long time. I got to talk to you about his running mate too. Okay. So Trump is out here. Now, here's my thing about Donald Trump. And like, I get frustrated with political media. Living Corporate, we're really talking about like the world of like work and like lived experience and more real talk in the corporate world. But political media gets on my nerves because they laugh a lot at Trump without really acknowledging like the danger of what he says. They kind of treat him like he's like a clown, and he is a clown, but he's a clown who has the potential to create actual harms. And we saw that during his first administration with all those judge appointments, not excluding the Supreme Court, but he says crazy things, like damn near every day. And I'm trying to figure out, is it that we're just numb? We being like the public consciousness numb to it? Because I feel like if Kamala got up there and said something about, if she pivoted from like bacon to wind farms to sharks, her campaign would be over. Like, what do you think that's about?
Well, you already named it. It's about white male privilege. It's about white male and rich white male privilege, because we believe if you're rich, then you're smart. And that's what Elon Musk surfs on. Like, you're rich, so you must. It's so funny to me. You can be smart in one area that made you money, but that doesn't mean you know about everything. But we have this whole thing about like, well, you're rich and smart, so you must know everything, which is not true. And the thing is, I think we have to think of Trump as like a baby with a shotgun. It may be funny and cute, but it could actually hurt some things. You know what I mean? And I also think you have to realize, and I have to remember this all the time, most people in this country ain't paying that close attention to politics. Like me and you and all of us on Twitter are like going through everything, and we've read all the articles, and we're Googling things to find out what percentage of judges the Most people, it is just the thing that goes past their face every now and again. They go, man, Trump is ridiculous. And they don't know about the judge stuff. They don't know about January 6th happened, but they haven't thought about it since, you know what I mean? And it's easy for you sort of go, yeah, why did they put those people in jail on January 6th? All they did was have a rally. It's easy to sort of start to think that because you're not paying that close attention. And so I think it becomes our job to have patience with those people. And when you run across them, to go, And so I think that, like, no, that's not what's happening. I think it's just the idea that, like, we live in a time because there's so much media, and we get convinced that everybody's watching the media we're watching. And most people are watching people dance on TikTok. You know what I mean? And I'm not mad at that, but most people are not watching the same level of media that you and I are, which is why it becomes so important you think about it. Most of the eligible voters aren't registered to vote.
Right.
And that's what tells you right there. Most people aren't paying attention, which is why the thing I do at this time of year is just like, I just want to get you registered. Like, I just want to get you thinking about it a different way. And I'm not going to tell you who to vote. I just want to get you in that booth. And the more you get in that booth, the more used to it'll be. But I think that, like, we have to understand that, like, for most people, Trump is just that guy who has clips on the news or online every now and again. They don't go deeper than that. And so that's why it becomes important for Kamala to motivate the people who are like, I really want to vote and I would be happy to vote for you, but you need to do the things I need you to do that are also the right things to do, the correct things to do.
Look, man, I feel like all of us, but I would think you more notably, you have to keep some semblance of hope, right? Like people look to you, to your point earlier about, hey, pilot, don't take off, stay where you're at. I got to get these tweets off.
Let me get 5 tweets off, pilot, and then we can get to DC.
Right. I'm
very important for a very small percentage of people.
You wait, and everybody is like, you have to keep hope. So like, what are you keeping hope about this season? And then like, what are you laughing at? Like, I also feel like comedians, they do a good job of laughing at stuff early that everybody might not find funny. But like, I imagine, and if I'm wrong, tell me I'm wrong. Like, what is it that you are just, what are you keeping front of mind for you just to kind of keep you going?
Well, I mean, again, I think that like it becomes real easy to figure out ways to find hope when you have 3 kids or you have any kids.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that you have to have children. I'm saying that is one of the things that probably keeps me out of the pit of despair is that I have these 3 kids who know who Trump is and know who Kamala is and know that we should blah, blah, blah. But like sitting with my 2 older daughters watching the convention, I can be super cynical about what's happening on that stage and also super hopeful about what it means for my kids. So for me, there's like this real sense of like this weekend, I'm doing stand-up again. And it's at a little tiny theater in Berkeley. It holds 60 people. We do 2 shows a night, 4:30 and 7:30, because that's the age group I'm in now. Like not 7:30 and 9:30. That's too late. 4:30 and 7:30. And I realized that, like, because I did the run before and it was kind of hard to do, and I realized I need to involve my kids in this more. So the way in which that I find hope and is to add joy to things that I'm already doing. So for example, the first show this weekend, my 9-year-old sat in a tech booth, and throughout the stand-up show, I would just talk to her and ask her questions. And the audience really enjoyed. So that it's not about your enjoyment. It's about me and my 9-year-old having our own experience. The second show, my daughter, who sings and plays guitar, opened the show and sang and played guitar for the first time in front of a group of people who aren't her friends. You know what I mean?
Oh my God.
Or her school. And so for me, it's like by the time I step on stage, I'm like, I don't care what you already got your money's worth. I am trying to figure out ways to create more joy for myself so that I'll have the energy to then do all this other stuff, to do this work. So, and then it's really helpful to like that JD Vance thing wasn't a thing I wanted to write. It like said, you sit down, Kamau, you need to write this. So for me, leaning into those moments of inspiration when it'd be easy to be like, what am I doing this for? Yeah. It doesn't matter, which it doesn't, but really feeding my own inspiration and doing that stuff really helps me like sort of like lighten my spirit and not just get caught up in this guy's actually awful. He's actually just really, and thinking that maybe he's going to read it and it's going to hurt his feelings really gives me hope.
Look, man, we're going to get you out of here. Before we do, though, look, you got a ton of stuff going on, right? And by the way, congrats on hosting the documentary Emmys later this month. So salute to you. Can you share more about projects and the things you're excited about getting into? Again, I know you're getting back into stand-up. You have your shows. Anything else?
I mean, right now, a lot of this sort of inspiration and writing is going to my Substack. It's called Who's With Me? With W. Kamau Bell asks who's with me. And I have to actually write one today. I'll probably write about JD Vance, actually. Like, I write about the things that are sort of bouncing around my head that I don't have any other space for. And so please check me out on Substack. It's free. But if you want to throw me $5 a month, we do Zooms every month where you can sit and talk to me like this, where they don't have to book me on their podcast. They can just pay for $5 for the price of a cup of coffee. You can talk to me on a Zoom.
That's good value.
I'm about to start hosting the ACLU's podcast at Liberty. And so we're going to record some of those. And so I haven't been in podcasting for a while. So I'm starting to host the ACLU. So be on the lookout for me to be the new host of At Liberty for my friends at the ACLU.
Look, it's been W. Kamau Bell. We had him for a great time. Brother, thank you. I give you flowers off mic. I'm going to say right now, again, plenty of people, the PR agencies come to me. Hey, we got this person. They got this book. They got this movie. Can they come on? I'm like, sure. Then off mic, I'll be like, hey, come back. I'll be like, sure. And I never hear from him again. So thank you. until the next thing comes up. So, yo.
Until the next movie. Oh, I'm so excited to finally talk to you again because I want to promote.
Come on, brother. Yeah, come on. So, W, man, thank you. God bless.
Thank you.
We'll catch you soon, man.
Absolutely. It's a pleasure to do it. And I'll come back again.
Listen, man, don't threaten me no doggone good time because I got some jokes that I didn't try. And I told my friends, so I tagged you in one earlier and you didn't give me feedback, but I'll send it.
I'll check it out. I've been working today. I'm definitely going to check it out.
All right, brother. We'll talk soon. Peace.
Bye.